Okay, so nobody's getting the truth from the mainstream media, folks. It's well past time to open your eyes, your ears, and your mind. Do your own research because something isn't right here. And if you can't see that, you are not paying attention, folks.
It's the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order. A world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. Now that's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
The important message that we need Australians to get vaccinated as quickly as possible. In line with that, I do encourage all Australians to please go and book your vaccinations as soon as you can if you haven't already done so.
Emma, get away!
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Okay, we need to stand up against this tyranny, folks. Stop giving away your freedoms and liberties, because the more you give up, the more these people will take until you have absolutely nothing left. That's their agenda.
Well, there you go, guys. You just seen it. When he was talking to the TED Talk, we can get one of these numbers down to zero, well, and straight away then to reproductive health. And we know what happened with the clot shot. The reproduction health went right down. We just recently I got informed that now that you can get IVF on not Centrelink payments, but what do they call that? Payments, Medicare. So they're succeeding. They're getting that. They're slowly knocking us down one by one. The other day, some friends of mine were in a particular place camping, and they've had troubles with the authorities not liking them camping there. They flew the helicopter over them about 10 times a day for 3 days, and all of a sudden they've all come down sick. The whole lot of them, they've got this mysterious flu-like virus. They're just going hardcore, guys. We've got to keep going. We've got to keep fighting. They are losing. We are winning. But if we back off for even just a minute, they're going to get us. They're going to take us down. They're never going to stand up, put their hand up in the air and go, guys, you were right. We were doing it on purpose, dragging you down. They're never going to do that. You can't stop. You can't think that it's gone back to normal. You can't. Normal. What do you class as normal, right? It's time to start thinking about growing your own food in your backyard, Instead of sitting there watching TV and these reality TV shows, how about jump off the lounge, go out the back, dig a garden, throw in next year's food, because you're going to need it. You're going to need food. You're going to need to have your own food. You're going to have to grow it, guys. It's coming. It's coming. Just look at what they're doing. What they will do if you don't have your own food is we'll feed you. We'll feed you. It's all right. Just come and sign up over to this digital ID over here, and we'll give you some food. And your food will be GMO. It'll be bug flour. We know this is happening. We've already got schools that are sending out messages to their parents saying that next year the cooking classes are going to be done with bug flour. What do you mean? What's bug flour? This is where they get crickets and all this sort of stuff, and they grind them up and they put them into replacement parts in the flour. And the people go, well, you know, people eat bugs all over the world. We don't have the digestive system for breaking that sort of stuff down. Just because you can eat it doesn't mean you should eat it. And that's another way they're going to do it. You know, digital IDs. People go, oh yeah, but it's voluntary, is it? Well, the guys that are in the mines at the moment, they're going, right, if you want a digital ID, if you want a black coal license, you have to get them black coal medical. To get a black coal medical, you have to do the digital ID. Hang on a minute, that's what, just like the mandates? All these people are going to lose their jobs if they don't do what they're told? Exactly. They made it, mandates were voluntary too, remember? The forced medical procedure was going to be voluntary. The ScoMo jumped up and said, we're not going to mandate this. And all of a sudden, all these people losing jobs because they wouldn't do it. Because they didn't mandate it. They just forced them because they have businesses. They give them what they give the BHP. They gave them a 75% tax break for 3 years if they got their 100% vaccinated staff. It's the sort of thing that's going to happen, guys. It's time to get ready for the serious shit. Like in the housing in Brisbane at the moment, very, very, very scarce. A lot of people homeless. Lots and lots of people homeless. So what they do? Oh, they did the right thing, right? They gave them free housing in the wellness centre that they built for COVID. Think about the wellness centre they built for COVID, right? They put 50 million taxpayers' money in it and 250 million of private money in it. Privateers don't put money in if they're not going to get something back. Now, they've just filled it up with all the homeless people from Brisbane. There was another wellness centre in Brisbane right down by the water in Pinkenbar. They didn't give them that one. They gave that wellness centre to the AFP so they could train on how to deal with people in that style of centre. So they've just given the wellness centre in Toowoomba to the people that are homeless. Oh, by the way, they're not taking the fencing down and they're going to lock it at night. So there's going to be a curfew, basically. And then they had to give the AFP the other wellness centre to train in. What is it telling you? That's right. They're going to train to sort those people out in that other wellness centre. And why didn't they give the one in Brisbane to the people who lived in Brisbane who were homeless? And then give the one up there for training in? Because they want all the homeless people out of Brisbane. Why do they do that? Well, we've got the Olympics coming for a start, so there's a good start, and they just don't like people that they can't control. They haven't got a house, and they haven't got a loan, and they haven't got debt. They can't control them. Just remember, the government can't control people who aren't classified as criminals or aren't in the system, and the government will keep making laws and rules to make good men and women criminals or trap you in the system somehow. Digital ID is the next one that's going to get you. I think I first read about digital ID in 2015. What about you, Cass? When was the first time you heard about it?
Yeah, well, just on the laws thing, Tacitus wrote over 2,000 years ago, the more corrupt the state, the more numerous the laws. Laws should be very simple, and the laws are not there for us. It's for us to control the politicians, those that are in authority. It's not meant to be for them to actually clamp down on our necks. They're the ones that we've given the power to, and they just keep going, oh, we need more power, we need more power. No, you actually don't. You need less power. We need more power, and you need to be held accountable.
Yeah. Does anybody know why there's grass on top of Parliament building? Why the lawn goes all the way over? That was so that the politicians could be reminded that they're under the people. The people could walk over top of them. That's why originally that building was designed with grass that went over top of it. And what they did, they put a fence there so you couldn't get up there anymore.
Of course they did.
Of course they did.
All right. Let's just basically do some house cleaning to start off with. Okay, so the National Workers Alliance, we will not be silenced. Change of venue. They've got Nick Patterson, Damien Richardson, Craig Cole, a discussion on why the government must stop mass immigration. Globalism is destroying Western civilization. Diversity is not our strength, and protect the children. That is on 6:30 Wednesday, June 19th. We have the Freedom Gathering. That is Saturday the 13th at 5 p.m. at the Yanamoga Pub Barn, and that's at 561 Burma Road at Tabletop. AV Weather is out on tour, and that's on tomorrow at 9:30 to 10 a.m. and that is on at the Mengapla Hall. And the Farmers Rally was on today, and oh my goodness, in Perth. We've got some footage from that, and I shall bring that in.
To be driving around the city tomorrow morning, there's a warning. Up to 1,500 vehicles could take part in a rally protesting the end of live sheep exports. Trucks, utes, cars and buses will be heading towards the city from all directions. There'll also be tractors heading off from Fremantle, and they'll all be heading towards the CBD. Police and main roads are preparing for the unknown tomorrow morning.
I'm not aware of a convoy of this size being in the CBD before. You know, it's 1,500 plus vehicles, so it will be interesting, and we'll do our best along with main roads to minimise disruption.
There will be significant delays on the Kwinana Freeway, Mitchell Freeway, Stirling Highway, Mount Spey Road and Riverside Drive.
The legislation to ban live sheep export entered WA Parliament this morning.
Well, what do you think, Phil?
I reckon they wouldn't have shown any of the actual footage of them actually rallying or any of the amount of people that were there. If they did, they would be just like sly little camera angles where you can't work out how many people are there. They always underwrite it. Like what they say, they said there's 10 to 15,000 people at Canberra on the big day. They underwrite it. So if they're saying there's only 1,500 vehicles, I'm saying there's probably about 15,000 total. And each vehicle would have more than one person in it. So, look, there's going to be massive numbers there. Was that today, was it?
I think that's for tomorrow.
Right. I really hope they do get those sort of numbers. We've got to stand up a bit more. It's good to see WA getting on board because they get flogged really, really bad all the time. The umbrella people. Today. Yeah, right. The umbrella people, a lot of people don't realise the umbrella people have been going on longer. They were started there just before the big rally, and they're still there every single day over in WA, the umbrella people.
What do the umbrella people do? I'm not familiar with them at all.
Okay, well they go to the WA governors and they protest the WA governors stand up for the WA people against mandates and digital ID and tyrannical laws. Yeah, look them up. They've been going for longer than we have at the GGs by about a week, I think.
Yeah, I've just got a question in here. David Mel, I find Dave's just got some family issues at the moment that he's working on, so he's just busy doing that. All right, so Phil, we've got a lot of interesting things happening here. Now, I knew you'd want to catch this if you hadn't, so let's listen.
Invested in the future of WHO to ensuring it's responsive and sustainably financed to fulfil its mandate. We're also fully committed to concluding the WHO pandemic agreement. Together we have made considerable progress in our shared ambition towards a set of binding international commitments for pandemic prevention, preparedness and response, and we have a strong basis on which to finalise important amendments to the international health regulations this week. I urge all Member States to redouble their efforts to resolve the remaining challenges and seize this opportunity to agree critical reforms to our global health architecture, because we simply cannot afford to fail.
Now, 6 months ago in the Parliament, they were saying, "Oh no, it's not mandated. Oh no, you won't, it won't be. Won't supersede. It will still be." And now, as soon as they get there, this is what they're actually saying to the WHO themselves.
Look, people don't realise that the only reason it didn't actually get through the WHO was because they couldn't agree on how to share the information from one country to the next. That's basically all they're fighting on over there, is about how they're going to share the information, because they're saying that it's not secure the way they want to share it. That Mark Buckler, he was one of the ones who finally apologised to they did that to the people. And they were still in Australia. They were still using that drug 2 years after it had been banned in the rest of the world. Pretty much like we did here with AstraZeneca when the rest of the world withdrew it off the shelves. We stopped buying it in, but whatever we had on the shelves, we continued to use. That Mark Butler he's a real piece, that guy. But they're actually only fighting. The only reason it got turned down is they're fighting about how they're going to share the data. They're saying it's not secure enough. But so don't be taken in and think that they're actually fighting for our rights.
No, it's incredible. Look, the government's doing all sorts of sneaky things behind our back, and this was picked up by Oz versus the Agenda, I think. We have to give them compliments for this video, but it's I was not aware of this.
The Australian energy ministers introduced a carbon tax by stealth. We've done the maths. This regulatory sleight of hand could add up to 50% to your energy bills. So, what is the new price on carbon, and how much could it cost you? In March this year, the Australian Energy Regulator released the annual values for the shadow carbon price, known as the value of emissions reduction. These values were mandated by the state and federal energy ministers with no opportunity for feedback from consumers.
Nobody cares what you think.
The government's shadow carbon price starts at $66 per tonne. Accounting for inflation, this is more than double the carbon tax introduced by the Gillard government in 2011. By 2050, the shadow carbon price is set to skyrocket to $420 a tonne. We call this new value of emissions reduction a shadow carbon price for a reason. It's not a tax paid directly by consumers, nor is it a Gillard-style tax levied on mining or fossil fuel companies. Instead, it works as an incentive that rewards transmission and distribution companies for proposing network projects aimed at reducing emissions. The costs of these projects are then passed on to consumers through their energy bills. Let's break down how this works. Transmission networks are the poles and wires connecting large-scale generation, such as coal plants or solar farms, to distribution networks. Distribution networks then carry this electricity to homes and businesses. You can think of transmission as a highway for electricity, while distribution networks are the local road. The Energy Regulator is responsible for approving network projects built by transmission and distribution companies to strengthen or expand the grid. Once approved, these companies make a profit by passing these costs through to consumers in their energy bills. Let's take an example of a distribution company wanting to build a project that expands electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Now, for the regulator to approve a project, the benefits to consumers must outweigh the costs. For this particular project, the benefits are lower than the costs, so you would expect the proposal to be rejected. But because of the government's new policy, the company can now use the shadow carbon price to inflate the project's benefits. They can claim that this project will save transport emissions because more EV charging infrastructure should translate to fewer petrol cars. These added benefits mean instead of the regulator rejecting the proposal, it gets approved. The distribution company is now free to start building the project, getting a nice boost to their profits by charging consumers more. This is all supposed to be in the name of reducing emissions, but the assumed reductions are not guaranteed. After all, a network company can't force anyone to swap their petrol car for an EV.
We'll leave it there, Phil. But anyway, what's your comments on that?
It perked my ears as soon as she said proposed improvement, because before she even put the little extra bits on the top. And look, we know if you any good with numbers, my mum actually used to do a survey, and she said we'd just stack the questions so that the survey came out how we wanted to. And it's the same when you're doing number crunching, when you make a proposal, you ask the right questions, you inflate the right data, you remove the data you don't want, and all of a sudden even if you're in a slight minus, then you jam on that. Did you see the increase? Was it $420 from $66? Just in the first, I think it was 5 years, it went from 66 to 105 on that scale, $105 per tonne. And if they can pass it on to the consumers, look out, guys, your bills are going to go through the roof. I mean, this week, one of the things I've been doing this week actually was giving some advice and helping a family go completely off grid with their power. If you're not looking at doing that, you've got rocks in your head, eh? Because look, right now, I know there's of an Australian company, which is Australian-owned, young family company. They're doing like, I think it was 6.6 kilowatts of panels, 20 kilowatts of batteries, and 2 5-kilowatt inverters, all in a box, shipped to your door for 16 grand. That's less than your power bill for a year generally. And you can completely go off grid with that. You can literally just get the electrician to put a changeover switch in your meter box to go from grid to generator, and then you just plug this box into it, throw your panels on the roof, and you're off grid.
No, well, that's right. I mean, look, it's everything that we can do at the moment. Like, what we have to do is restructure this government so that we can actually hold them accountable for this kind of intrusion into our lives. But at the moment, we can't do that. So we've got to do what we can.
When you say hold accountable too, we've got to make it so they're not just held accountable for while they're in government. They've got to be held accountable years later.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Penny Wong. She's decided that the Ukraine needs more money.
The next step in Australia's unwavering support for Ukraine. All Australians want a comprehensive, just and lasting peace in Ukraine, and we continue to stand with Ukraine and their struggle to end this war on their own terms. The Albanese government will provide a further $31 million of assistance to meet Ukraine's energy and humanitarian needs. We remain steadfast in our support for Ukraine's sovereignty. We remain steadfast in our support for Ukraine's territorial integrity, and we will continue to consistently condemn Russia's invasion as an abrogation and attack on the UN Charter, a charter which protects all nations, including Australia. We stand with the people of Ukraine.
Oh, dear me. Yes, Phil.
There's a couple of interesting statements there. They stand with the Ukraine so they can claim back their sovereignty. And the attacks from the Russian aggressors. I'm thinking 1770, April 19th. In 1770, there was some aggressors that turned up in the country and took someone's sovereignty. That's what I'm thinking straight up there. $31 million. Okay, we had a budget deficit. I mean, I don't know how we can have a budget deficit when we owe multiple countries billions of dollars. But they're going to throw another 31,000. What about housing, guys? We need local housing. There's people that are living on streets. There's families living in cars, and we're throwing $31,000.
We have something on that, but also to add to that, Phil, you're going to love this one. So what's actually happened is Albo has done a deal, and the Australian taxpayers to fork out $600 million for PNG to join the NRL.
PNG, they're just across the river. What do they need $600 million for?
Exactly. Well, where's that money really going?
Exactly. Where is $600 million? What, they haven't got a football team now? I know they've got a football team because I used to work over there. They've got quite good football players, and they only live across a river. They only got to fly like probably 2 hours, and they're in Cairns.
Well, yeah, it definitely is something to sort of look into more. Now, you were just mentioning the housing. Now, Punters Politics, they've got an interesting take on this with regards to Singapore and public housing.
That's not good. Oi, Singapore. Me? Do you have a housing crisis? What do you mean, like people not being able to afford houses? Yeah. No, we've got a home ownership rate of like 90%. That's not possible. How'd you do it? We just, build houses. What do you mean we, like your private property developers? No, we, the government of Singapore, just built houses. And then what? Then we'd sell them to people who, need houses. Ugh, government housing must be pretty povo. What's that? Oh, that's our government housing. Like 80% of people in Singapore live in government housing. Didn't you used to do something similar? Oh, yeah, nah, but that was a long time ago. Your government used to build housing. You brought home ownership up from 32% to 70%. What? Just do that again. Yeah, nah, we can't be doing that now. Says who? Oh, the private property developers. Isn't that the only group of people that actually benefits from your housing crisis? No, not just them. Banks love it. And the 1% of property investors who own 25% of the properties. Whoa, what's that? Hey, now that $94 million donated by property developers over the last 20 years has no bearing whatsoever on our decision to stop building government housing. And just because I own 5 investment properties, in no way influenced our decision regarding the tax breaks that we give to property investors.
Oh dear.
You just got. If the Australian people aren't awake to this shit, I really, I just do not understand how people cannot see how, like you say, they've got to be accountable. We've got to start. I think we've still got to register a set of gallows down in Victoria. Might be time to warm them up a bit, stretch that rope a little bit.
All right. Now, Phil, we've had apocalyptic warnings apparently about a bird flu. Scientists say an apocalyptic bird flu could wipe out half of humanity. It's and now that was from 2020, and now suddenly we've got bird flu, and it's apparently everywhere because they're having to destroy a whole heap of farms, chicken farms.
Yep. They're just like they did what they do a while back and did bees. They got rid of all the bees. Now they're getting rid of all the chickens. Chicken, you have a look, it's pretty much one of the most common things that people eat. They eat chicken and eggs a hell of a lot in Australia. We eat, it's everywhere. You look at how many KFCs and the Portos and all that sort of stuff that are getting around. And it's one of the cheaper meats that you can buy nowadays. So, no wonder they're trying to get rid of chickens and bird flu. And I seen this come up the other day, the bird flu thing. And I put some comments up on Facebook. Oh, here we go again. And actually, that was one of the things they mentioned too about scientists are trying to bring in this new legislation for 100-day development of vaccines. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I know. And it looks like they're going to be doing that with the animals as well. And it's just like, why would you actually need that?
They're talking about, so what they're talking about is like predicting types of pandemics or viruses or flus, and then they're going to develop vaccines for it that are very similar, and then at the last minute they sort of like tweak it a little bit and give it approval in 100 days to get approval. How can you have long-term efficacy from 100 days of experiment?
No, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? And we've already had it came out. We covered this last night, I think, but the PCR tests have been acknowledged in court, a court of law, that they don't actually work, that they're fake and fraudulent and whatnot. And there's still nothing in the mainstream media in Australia about it.
Well, you've got to remember that the design. Sorry.
Go on.
The designer of that test. He came out and said it was never meant for using that. It was only meant to show that there was actually virus present. It doesn't find out what strand of virus it is, whether it's dead or alive, or even if it's a whole piece of the virus. It just has to be part of the DNA from the virus. And when just not long after he came out with that, the guy who designed the PCR test, because it was only meant for laboratories for testing their beakers and stuff like that, he all of a sudden died in an accident.
Yeah, that was Carrie Mullis, wasn't it? That's it's just outrageous, the stuff that that's going on all of the time, and it's just everywhere. And I'm like you, I don't understand how people at this point can't actually be going, something's wrong here, something's not quite right. So
I think that a lot of people are. They just don't know what to do. We've just got to give them some more direction.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. This is a very interesting exchange between Alex Antic and ASIO, and I thought that it should be included.
I asked you about your diversity and inclusion pathway, and we're told on notice that, and you took the question on notice, I think, so thank you for that, that the department has, or the agency has 5 full-time equivalent officers who deliver ASIO's diversity and inclusion strategy. What's the cost per annum for those positions to the agency?
Off the top of my head, we're just working it out now, so 225K.
Yep. And there are 7 staff-led diversity and inclusion programs that you have. I think they include pathways for staff experiencing mental health issues, gender equity issues, sexually diverse network, and a network for introverts, which must be something else. And a number of other parents network, one for Indigenous employees. Do they have a cost to the agency as well? And how much staff-led time do they take up?
Well, it's part of something the staff do on their own time. They obviously, yes, they do it in work time. We don't cost it. It's just part of the importance of these networks.
Do you have a staff-led group for people of Christian faith?
No, I don't believe we do so, but if they wanted one, they were welcome to have one. In terms of the cost and impact, we measure people on their performance, and we're a high-performing organisation, and I'm confident none of that impacts us. In fact, all of this supports us doing our job well.
Right. Can I just take you back, just as my last line of questioning, to some of the commentary around right-wing extremism as it gets described. In your annual report, there are multiple references to the Weambler incident, the tragic Weambler incident in December of, I think, 22. Correct. It was. Multiple references. When I go back and look at the instances of terrorism in this country, I see the Endeavour Hills stabbing in 2014, the Lint Sydney hostage crisis in 2014, Parramatta shooting in 2015, Minto stabbing in 2016, Queanbeyan and on and on and on. 11 or so instances that, including the very recent Wakeley Church with the Good Shepherd Church attack, stabbing in very recent times, something like 11 to 1 that represent radical Islamic terror. You said, I think, that there is an increasingly small number of instances, yet the annual report seems to focus quite squarely on the one incident that is right-wing Christian nationalist extremists. Is the agency overplaying that?
Well, no, we're actually calling out the actual attacks in our annual report. We talk about actual attacks that are described as a terrorist event and major terrorism disruptions. Weambler was Christian violent extremists.
But that's not the preeminent concern for the agency. It's still radical Islam.
Anyone who has think that violence is an answer is a concern of my agency. You're right to call out the characterisation of the actual successful attacks.
Police force.
But anyone who has a violent extremist ideology will get the full attention of myself and the federal police and state and territory police forces.
So what sort of weighting are you now putting on right-wing Christian nationalists versus Islamic terror-inspired chatter? What are you monitoring at the moment by way of...
Well, so the most likely terrorist event in this country will happen with little or no warning, with a knife, car or gun, as we've recently seen with a knife. It could come...
Interesting exchange there. Interesting exchange. Now, I think we had it on this week. The Wyambler, the Queensland Police do not want to release the information on that. They want to suppress the information.
Isn't it?
It is interesting that. Now, why would that be? I wonder. They wouldn't want to not release it if it showed that their version of the story was correct, would they?
No, that's right, exactly. And you see that we're concentrating on any groups there who think that violence is the answer. Well, I'm saying, what about Dan Andrews' group then? In the AFP and the police, they seem to think that violence was the answer down in Victoria. So ASIO is obviously investigating them.
It was definitely the answer they thought it was definitely the answer. They had, they were pulling women out of cars. They went to a pregnant lady's house and arrested her.
Yeah, so obviously the ASIO would have arrested all them for doing that, obviously.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Where RAs, yeah. Now, also, like with their violent level extremism, exactly what does that entail? Because is it not violence towards the people that you are your constituents to insist that they have to have a bioweapon in order to work?
Well done. What about digital ID? When you say that, isn't that some sort of when you threaten people with losing their income and their food and their way of living? Well, that's a threat too, isn't it? So,
No, that's it. We've also got your EC safety Karen here, Phil.
This is why we measure our success through the lives that we positively impact, not in the number of reports or notices we issue. There is no question that this is a difficult, complex, and contestable space. But it is important to clarify that we are not arbiters of speech online, nor are we proactively monitoring the internet. Parliament empowered eSafety to investigate and remediate online harms reported to us by distressed Australians.
What did she just say? That's the biggest word salad I've ever heard. No,
I'd say
she is... Sorry?
You go first.
No, Milk Bar TV put out where he was stalking she was stalking, or people from her office were stalking his wife.
Yep.
In fact, and it's come out that she was having regular reports throughout the day on what people were saying about her. Hello?
Yeah, but no, she's not monitoring. No. They're just only following up on stuff that people have commented about. Yeah, her and her people in her department have asked to be commented about. Obviously, I mean, Elon Musk with the when they tried to get rid of that stabbing off the thing there. Oh yeah, that was distressed Australians talking about that for sure. And yet everything I read was Australians going like, well, how come the rest of the world can watch it but we can't?
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly correct. All right, so the big news of the day, Phil, was, of course, the 34 convictions of Trump. Now, we've looked into that a bit. We've covered it a bit. Jesse Waters has got this report on it.
Issue about how Judge Merchan came to preside over this case. There are 24 sitting judges who were supposed to be randomly selected from to take this case. Judge Merchan wasn't even on the list of judges. He's an acting judge. And he's not just a Biden donor. Judge Merchan donated to the Progressive Turnout Project and to an organization called Stop Trump. And he never recused himself. Judge Merchan was allegedly randomly selected for the Trump hush money case, the Trump organization fraud case, and for the Steve Bannon case. This is almost statistically impossible that an acting judge, not within the pool of sitting judges, who happens to be a Stop Trump donor, is randomly selected to all three of these Trump cases within the same year. It's probably another conspiracy theory. Just like
they come through in a week. Conspiracy theories come through within a week nowadays.
I know. They do. I know. Now, Tory says has put out that what they did for the jury was they actually, because there's no actual crime. They failed to actually outline even a crime of all the 34 elusive charges. And yet they came back guilty on all 34. Now, she's been putting out for months that what they did was they AI'd and profiled jurors that they knew would bring in a conviction for them. And it looks like even the judge was dodgy as well, that he even got selected. So all reports that I've seen from people who are that are attorneys, practicing attorneys, is they're just like, I've never seen anything like this. There's no charges. There's no crime that's been outlined.
So how can he be guilty of nothing?
Yeah, no, I know. But it's just the mass use of lawfare against anyone who stands up. This is what this is what fascism is, it's the it's where the corporation and the state become one.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what we know. We know that none of it's fair, none of it's true, none of the elections are elections, they're selections, and including ones with juries and trials and all that sort of stuff. They own the whole lot. They own everybody. And like you say, they would have profiled all the people that the jury might have been selected randomly, but they would have randomly selected from a certain group that they'd already AI'd and to come up with the right answer.
That's it. Yeah, now the QAnon people, of course we like to cover a bit of QAnon, they're not too worried about it. They predicted this, and they've basically what it does is it creates a precedent. So now that Obama and Biden and anyone who has committed crimes can be indicted, and also it's going to be overturned because they failed to even outline what the crime was. So very interesting to see, and a lot of people in the Q thing were saying, "Oh well, if this is this is a trap, and we've been expecting it." So that's
advertising is good advertising. Remember.
Yeah, that's it. All right, we got this guy. I thought that we'd bring him in and have a little listen to him.
At gender reveal parties, people only choose one of two colors. So I can't assume your gender, but you can assume I'm racist? If genitals don't define gender, how does removing them affirm it? It's scary when the weatherman is the closest one to telling the truth on the news now. If the vaccine doesn't keep you from getting or spreading the virus, what the hell does the booster boost? If women can be paid less for doing the exact same work, why wouldn't every company just hire women? How are we taking the rights of women away if we don't know what a woman is? So the man who accidentally left 300,000 guns for the Taliban is going to lecture us on gun control? Want to stop drunk drivers from killing sober drivers? Ban sober drivers. That's how gun control works.
Oh dear, sometimes things like that are really cool. They just really simplify things.
And that's right. They're literally, guys, why are not normal people thinking like this? I do. Like when they were having the big virus thing, and you go, 15 people have got COVID. I'm going, okay, so that leaves 27 million people without COVID. Like in New South Wales, it'd go, 16 people have COVID and one person died from it. I go, okay, so that leaves what, 17.8 million people without it in New South Wales? It's like, why don't people think like this?
I don't know. It just, I don't know why I see the world the way I do, and everybody else gets caught up in the rubbish. It's just like, surely you can see that they're not telling the truth.
And they're only telling you the bit of the truth you want, eh?
Yeah, no, that's it. That's exactly right, Phil. So right. All right, Phil, I'll leave you to wrap up, and I've got our outro here ready to go.
Cool. There we go. No?
Are you going to wrap up?
Oh, okay. I can wrap
out.
up, yeah. Rightio, guys. Look, we just mentioned to them, why aren't people seeing it? People are seeing it. People are waking up. But what's not happening is they haven't got enough guidance, guys. So our job now that have been awake for a long period of time, we've seen more, we've realised more, we're awake to more, and we see a path. A lot of us see some sort of path. So let's help the people that have just waken up find a way to help push back. And for God's sake, don't pay fines. Don't pay any of that sort of stuff. It's just giving them money to fight back at you. And look, there's digital ID and that. They're going to push it. There's digital food. They're going to make food shorts and that. Stand up, make a ground, make the stand. We've got to help people wake up to how we can push back at this sort of thing, guys. So please, don't step back. Don't slip into the shadows. Step forward. Work out a way that you can do it. And don't be that one person that just goes, oh, look, I just have to do it. Everybody else can fight, but I'm just going to accept it this one time. Don't be that person, because at the moment, everybody's been that one person that just has to do it, and we have to let the next person fight. No, it's your job to fight too, guys. We are all fighting. We're all suffering, all of it. So please, please, please don't back down and help guide the people that have just woken up on how we win this. And that's, we push back and we keep pushing back. They're never going to put their hand up. They're never going to say, okay, you caught us out. We're going to have to force them. Thanks, guys. Stay strong.
Thank you. Awesome words there, Phil. All right, we've got a very talented dog taking us out tonight.
Oh, cool. Good job.